Hello guys, welcome to our show. Today we discuss about mastering Entity SEO, how you can improve your skills because SEO is complex today, but you can do it if you have the right approach. I'm so excited to discuss this topic with Nik Ranger. How are you?
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be back. And I'm really
Yeah.
excited to talk about Entity SEO today because I think it's so important. It is really the way that I think that a lot more SEOs should really be looking at how their websites work, why search engines are crawling, where that they crawl, how it ranks. I think there's just so much here to unpack that I'm really excited to get into it today.
Yeah, nice. I remember our two episodes where you share a lot of valuable insights. You led me to the emergency room where I need to spend time, to consume all this information, all this data. And Nick, before we start, just remind more about your business, about your methods of SEO. And can you tell our audience, because we have new students who are looking for ways how to learn modern SEO and they don't know where to start, what to do, because we have a lot of obsolete data, generic methods, and explain how to find the right approach.
Well, it's funny you should ask. I've just hired my first employee down here at the Melbourne office. We've got a large team, but I'm the only one in Melbourne until now. And one of the things that I think is really beneficial for learning SEO is have a site that you have that's just sort of your own site to be able to test your own theories, try out new things, and also just like even do experimentation. It can be great to even just set up your own tracking, all that other stuff. So doing so DIY with your own sites is great, but I've actually really appreciated going through and reading more about like how search works. So a book that I would really love to recommend is Entity Search by Carol Balzog. Christian Balog. And it is a phenomenal book. It really underpins a lot of the things I'll be talking about today, and it gives you a really great way of understanding like how semantic search works, what information retrieval is, what natural language processing is, how search engines access databases, and what it looks like on the landscape of the semantic web. And how entities really play into all of those different pieces and connect into each other.
Nice. Yeah, I hit this book in the description if you are going to read this book because I love reading books. But it's interesting. In my life, I didn't read any SEO books. I usually read marketing books. I love them. For example, Joe Sugarman wrote a book about how to retain readers longer, and he wrote this book like 40 years ago. But I can relate all this information to digital marketing, to SEO, because I think psychology is the same, people are the same, but technologies change, so we need to consider new technologies. And Nick, I'm interested about finding the right keywords. Can you tell, because we usually start from creating a list of keywords, and I see when webmasters open SEMrush, Ahrefs, Moz, Ubersuggest, name them, all these great tools, see high volume and think, wow, I want to get it, I want to promote these keywords. But in the first stage, it's really hard. You need to compete with big companies. Big companies like, for example, if I take SEO, Neil Patel, Moz, Ubersuggest, I don't know, big companies in the top 10 results. In the second, it doesn't mean that we can sell by having these keywords, because if you sell SEO services, it doesn't mean that you can convert SEO keyword, to real customers. Can you tell how to find the right keywords, especially by using tools that provide a lot of data, but how to find keywords that will sell in the end?
Okay, so I think keyword tools are exceptionally useful for very specific types of tasks. I think keyword tools like Semrush, Ahrefs, Keyword Insights, a whole other host of keyword tools are very useful to get context of search volume if you don't already have pages. If you are trying to enter into the market and you're trying to get a bit of an idea of, okay, well, what's the sort of market share that I could be able to maybe even habitate, to be able to work towards, starting to rank for those particular types of queries and terms. That's where I think tools are useful, but really having Search Console set up on your site is probably the best way to be able to analyze like what is motivating people to click through to your website. How many impressions do you actually get for certain keywords? What is your click-through rate and what is your average position? And the reason why I say this is because a lot of like learning to rank algorithms use click data as a way to be able to figure out whether or not where their tests in the search engine's results page, when you're at position 1 or position 3, 10, whatever, they'll use this click data to confirm whether or not this test was a positive test, or maybe they need to try it again, or it's probably not the best result for users. So by having a look at your Search Console and seeing how many clicks they are actually achieving for your pages gives you a certain idea of actually the engagement for your posts. So having a look at that, trying to think about ways to be able to improve that on page is a really, really great way to start. And the thing that I really want to stress about the difference between using Search Console that maybe you don't necessarily like have an idea about search volume. I have seen queries that are in Search Console that have zero search volume in tools that have hundreds of thousands of impressions. Maybe to that not extreme, but they have a lot of impressions. And you're thinking like, okay, so a tool has surmised that this keyword, this query has zero search volume. So that's zero searches on average per month in a particular country or region that you're hoping to break market in. But in Search Console, I might have 100,000 impressions. Impressions are like volume. They're like views.
Yeah. Almost, yeah.
Absolutely. So starting there and getting a sense of what is actually motivating people to click through, having a look at the types of queries that are actually populating about that is such a useful way. And I don't want people to sort of like fall into the trap of really misinterpreting what these tools can be useful for, because they're amazing. Semrush and Ahrefs and other SEO tools are really, really incredible for scoping new markets and maybe looking at what how much attention that you might need to pay to the quality of those posts. But really, it doesn't take away from Search Console, which is really the number one source of query information that you need to actually act upon.
Nice. Yeah, I think Google Search Console is a must-have. It's my live-in tool. I think today I can use ChatGPT more often than Google Search Console. By the way, we had 2 episodes before launching ChatGPT. Today it's a hot topic, probably a regular tool. I don't know any writer, author who ignore ChatGPT today or AI. I cooperate with many great authors who can write like for Bloomberg, Forbes, Search Engine Journal, and all of them use AI. Can you tell how to unite AI with SEO entity? I mean, like how to use AI in the correct way, because I see when people set up or ask on ChatGPT generic prompts like how to play a guitar, how to lose weight, so generic, and they get generic answers. So can you tell your methods how to write the right prompts and unite with entity?
Okay. So I just want to make it abundantly clear that ChatGPT completely hallucinates answers. And I really, really want to make that clear right now. That is a really, really important thing to remember when before you're doing work, that you need to check the sources. You need to check the way that it might be even like retelling an answer, because it's going to have a specific bias. I think one of the great things about ChatGPT is that it will take your prompt and break it down into sections and be able to answer parts of that and include that into the answer. So it's almost confirming a potential bias that you may have about a topic. Say, for example, why are apple pies the best kinds of fruit pie? It's going to basically confirm that answer. It might not be objective. It might not sort of maybe build in empirical data. It won't do the same thing that a journalist will do, which is really the strength of how natural language processing works. There are some really, really key rules that like how search engines utilize natural language processing to be able to train their models to be able to understand and unpack how information is pulled together, how facts within that information are sourced back to its own central point of truth, which is a really great way that Dixon Jones likes to describe semantic SEO. By searching and matching facts. And really, this is around like information retrieval uses relevant information from a large collection of unstructured and semi-structured data. And that's unstructured and semi-structured data usually comes from a database store of all of this information in tables with predefined schemas. That is a database, and that's where all the sources of truth about what it understands is sort of there to be able to be matched against. So natural language processing, that involves analyzing and understanding human language to enable the machines to be able to process and respond to it. So if we think about that, the semantic web is an extension of the World Wide Web that enables machines to understanding the meaning of web content. I'm starting to like really bring the audience into this world, into this understanding of how we need to really be able to start to think about this in a lot more of a contextual way, because using ChatGPT is really, really powerful. And we're certainly using it here to be able to do specific types of tasks and queries for us, even build tools, which is a really, really exciting point in, I guess a company's history, because now we can be able to provide proof of concept before we go to developers to be able to build things. It is really, really helping the brief process of being able to lay out structures and be able to provide a lot more sufficient guidelines for people. I think that is incredibly powerful. But I think what I'd like to maybe just even say, like with natural language processing, a lot of the rules that govern natural language processing, which is really important for writers to be able to take into consideration if they're wanting to use these prompts to be able to basically train have their responses from these prompts come back having like a natural language processing involves the capturing of the meaning of the text that can be divided into really just three categories: low-level processing, segmentation tasks, and linguistic annotations and end-user applications. So low-level processing and segmentation tasks, that includes the sentence breaking, the word segmentation, the stemming, and the lemmatization. So with these particular things, so say take a paragraph, and within that paragraph, it will be, you've got different sentences that cooperate in that paragraph. What a low-level parsing will do is starting to break that up. We'll look at each of those words and start to segment them down. It will be able to stem those words, so get the context of that word and the surrounding words, and the lemmatization will be able to break that down into text, into smaller units, such as words and phrases, to facilitate further analysis for a natural language model. Linguistic annotation, that includes the part of the speech tagging, the word sense disambiguation, named entity recognition and disambiguation of that, the co-reference resolution, temporal tagging, semantic role labeling, and the dependency of parsing. I think a lot of these things, these annotations, they're really meant to yield deeper representations that are closer to the meaning that may be exploited into those real-world applications. And then the end-user applications refers to like certain different types of like natural language processing technology. It can be able to have machine translation. It can be able to look at the sentiment analysis, and like maybe even be able to be used in the way that ChatGPT will use them. So really, natural language processing rules involves a combination of those computational linguistic techniques, and that's a really, really good way to be able to do that, because in practice, what it looks like is just really good journalism, breaking things down into one sort of idea per sentence. Is a really good way to do this, by breaking up a paragraph into dot points. So having things where if you might have like a whole series of answers, instead of having that all in one paragraph, breaking that up into dot points and making it easier for machines to read, which also conversely makes it easier for people to understand and to read, and being able to not use jargon. So lots of maybe not using words like lemmatization or disambiguation, maybe breaking it down to simple things like just have one idea per sentence, and having it in a way that if you are sort of starting to talk about things where you need to be a little bit more complex with your words, to break them down and explain what it is, but explain it a little bit more simply, to be able to have a wider audience that can be able to understand that. All these things in practice really helps a reader to be able to follow what you're saying. It helps machines to be able to understand the real core intent behind what you're writing, why you're writing it, and who you're writing it for.
Yeah, I can feel that you reply short long answer, a lot of explanations, like I can write a case study, in your answer. Okay, Nik, I want to ask you about ranking factors. I found that if I ask 100 SEOs, I can get 100 different answers. And I found that usually specialists consider their strong sides, their experience. For example, if someone is good with writing, they can tell you need to write great text. If I ask PR specialist, I can get reply, you need to earn authoritative PR backlinks. You have technical optimization background. Can you tell from your experience where you pay more attention? For example, if you have limited resources, and all companies have limited resources, you can't do everything. I mean, like to create, to write a lot of great articles, to earn backlinks, to create great design for your user experience. So if you have limited resources, what will you do considering that resources are limited, but you want to get ranking in the end?
Okay, I would think about what can I do to be able to train the model to understand who I am and what I represent. which is a really, really great way to be able to start to build your brand, and hopefully have your brand be associated as an entity, and really start to have your brand be known for the core service or product or topic that you want to be an authority for, which is being able to associate one entity with another entity and to be able to create that new connection. That is, in essence, the core idea of what Entity SEO is really designed to be able to start to guide site owners and marketing teams to be able to do. Doggies. So when I think about like how to be able to do that, we understand there is a sense of quality around the post that we create. We want to be able to look at maybe having frequency. That is like, how often do we want to be able to release, like new posts to the web? What is sustainable for us to do in the longer term? What is the, I literally wrote all this down yesterday, but left my book at work. What is a way that we can be able to work on the quality of those posts? Because if I had like a small amount of budget, I would be designing a site in a way that is, from a UX UI perspective, very easy to be able to navigate. So I would think about, okay, if I were to find a really, really deep blog post on my site, how would I be able to find that the most, the easiest way? And I would start to like think about, okay, well, I want to have menu links. I want to have maybe faster navigation. I want to have internal links. I want to have a way to be able to start to, with the templates that I choose, how I'm going to be able to find things. Because if you're already starting there, it's going to make everything so much easier for you in the longer run. Because then you kind of need to do just that little bit less work maybe later, fixing these things, and you'll have less problems with orphan pages and all kinds of other things. I would have maybe like a breadcrumb schema app to be able to input and be able to bracket your site with particular breadcrumbs so that you can be able to find pages deeper. That is a really, really great way to start. And so that's a kind of like way that you can start to have like your site work really, really hard for you as you're starting to add more content. Because adding more content is now starting to train the model to say like, okay, this is me as a person. I'm that entity, and I am writing content on my website. And this is something, and my topic might be, I'm really into audio tools. And my whole brand is about the information and the selling of audio products. So what is really important for me is to start to have a search engine understand that that's what I'm writing about. So I might have some category pages about my audio products. I might have product pages that detail the description of that, but then I'll have a blog that is used to be able to start to write information about my audio products. There is a really, really good reason why a blog can be so impactful for site owners to be able to have as much really, really good topical relevant information about their product or service. And that's because Google has been developing since 2012 their own version of AI, which is AI is really just taking the real world and being able to bring this into the digital landscape, if you will. And that's by building out knowledge graphs. And knowledge graphs really are the understanding of how the world, how the world works and what relationships things have to other things, objects have to other objects, and so on and so forth. That is the way that a search engine understands the world. and that is a collection of information. So for us as site owners to be able to start to really train the models to be able to associate us with our particular topics, we can be able to start adding in this contextual information. That crawler will come, it will understand who we are and start to associate us the best it can to what it understands our brand to represent.
Yeah,
So,
got it.
yeah, so I would have a really, really good theme with a really good internal link architecture, and I would have a ton of really, really good quality content at a pace that suits me as an individual.
Nice. Nick, in the beginning of our podcast, you mentioned about testing, experiments, and I know it's not the same like if we test paid marketing, because we can get data almost immediately. We can analyze what to change, for example, content, marketing message. But can you tell how to do it in SEO? Because it takes time to analyze how Google will consider your content, rank higher or disrank, I don't know, or how many sales it can bring. Can you tell your way how to test in SEO considering entities?
Okay. So I'm just trying to unpack your questions. So how to be able to test that? I'll just say, like, the first part of that answer, because I think the second part is a little bit more involved. So the first part of how we are able to test this with u.algoroo.com, which is a tool that we've developed. We build click-through rate models with your Search Console data. And with this, we're able to see what the click-through rate would be on position 1, position 2, position 3, position 4, etc. And this generally builds us like a nice little curve, which is a really great way so we can see how many queries are ranking for each position, what its value is, and where we can be able to find opportunities by maybe isolating certain query types to be able to see what kind of pages are in this band and what we can be able to do to be able to influence that click-through rate to be moved up in positions. So that's where a lot of our traffic growth will come from. And typically we will look at non-branded queries because that's a really great way to build your audience. With these click-through rate models, we will be adding the conversion rate and the transactional value. So now we've got a conservative way of being able to see what the intended revenue is for that particular, for how many clicks that are being attributed. Because say, for example, you've got a certain click-through of 3%, and you've got maybe a transactional value of say $26. So you know that 3% of all the sales, all the clicks that may come through, and this is sort of like computationally added, you may be able to get for a certain amount of queries an increase in that profit line if you're able to increase the ranking position of just one. So now we can be able to say, like, okay, this is how much you're making right now just with your existing data. If you were to do these specific actions where you're influencing the click-through rate, that you're increasing that that ranking position by just one, this is how much money you could be making. And then we'll also do that if everything were to rank number 1, to be able to showcase the threshold. So now you've got like what you're making now, how much money you would make if you were just to rank one more position, and then how much money you would rank if everything that you ranked for ranked number 1. So you've got some idea of a bandwidth of how much it's going to be, and now it becomes a cost by value kind of conversation, because now you can say like, all right, we can maybe make from $26,000, what you're currently making. If you were to do this, you might make just under $100,000 if we were to for these pool of queries just rank one position above. So not even for everything, just for like a small subset of queries. If you just rank one more, you might make just under $100,000, and that could be your new yield point. Because now the click-through rate, it might be at 3%, say at position 6, and if you were to rank position 5, that click-through rate would actually look something a little bit more like, it might be 4.4%. So it works almost by like that nice little index. And that's a really, really great way that we can be able to detect things and be able to have a look at priority lists of certain query types that we're wanting to go after to be able to optimize for these particular pages.
Yeah,
and that's how we project revenue.
And
with our SEO actions.
Can you tell how is accurate this data? I understand it's estimation, but because when I check out different calculations of ROI, return on investment, and it depends in most cases, on products, on content. So can you tell how is accurate? And if it will be great if you can hit the link to your tool. If it's accessible to anyone, I'll shout out
sure.
with my audience.
Yeah, we've made this free, so anyone can be able to go
free.
in and be able to demo it. Yeah, sure. Well, as far as the accuracy is, it's as accurate as you need to make sure that the period of time is exactly the same. And if you are doing, you have to consider, like, if you're doing this particularly on non-branded keyword terms, maybe in setting up the tests, I get the conversion value and the transactional value. I'll get that from analytics. I'll get that from our conversions that we've set up, for our clients. And some of this there won't be one-to-one to real life. That's why we like to say that it's a nice conservative estimation of what you could potentially expect. But typically, doing forecasting in SEO is a very, very tricky thing. Using the data that we have already learned with the amount of clicks that you're already getting from, to your pages, by learning how, what motivates clicks, and by looking at, how successful you are right now with the conversion goals that you've set up, what your current conversion rate is, how much that transactional value, at the end of the day, how much money that you're getting. So you might even be able to work by a system of ratio and say, like, okay, my analytics is reporting that I've made $26 today, but the real result, maybe I might have made $19 today. I mean, if your goals aren't reporting things correctly, I can't really speak to that. But it is a really, really great way that we've been able to use this when they have been set up relatively well. We have an idea of at least a ratio of the value that could be able to create for a client.
Yeah, nice, awesome. Nik, I have 2 questions left, and my common question about SEO mistakes. Now, in my life, I made a lot of mistakes. I keep doing them, but I don't know another way how to learn, because I think everyone starts from best practices, generic strategies, then we can adapt, find something else that will work for us. Can you tell common mistakes in SEO that webmasters still do from your experience? and your tips how to avoid them as much as possible.
Common mistakes.
Yeah.
Oh man. See, I don't really spend a lot of time with junior teams all too much. I think the common mistake is making assumptions that without actually doing any testing. Actually, no, I've got a really good example. The assumption was that these pages inherently didn't get any value towards the site, so that they would just completely, they just decided to nuke them, essentially. So they decided to like 410 a whole bunch of pages, not even redirect them, because from their perspective, these pages didn't have, wasn't generating traffic, wasn't generating keywords. I don't think any consideration was ever really thought about this. It was just like, oh, these are old. No one looks at these anymore. We're just going to sunset all of this. I sort of said, hang on, wait a minute. Before we make any actions, particularly when expiring pages, the first thing that I want to be able to look at is historically what has been the traffic through to these pages. How many queries do they currently rank for? Are there any external links pointing to these pages that will be actually helped by distributing the authority of your site? And also, be like, or maybe it's a topical pillar that you rank really well for, that was starting to contextualize your site in a way that search engines could understand what you're talking about. So I did these checks. I had a look at this, like, how much traffic and keywords and backlinks are pointing to these pages. And all of these pages had tons of traffic. They had tons of queries that were really valuable to them, and tons of backlinks. And I think because these pages were written in another language, I also checked where the traffic sources were coming from, and they were coming from that particular country, which was very relevant to them. Accessing these pages and using them, from what I could tell from the behavioral analytics around these pages. So I kind of went back to them and I was saying, like, respectfully, I did a bit of risk mitigation for you, just to sort of see what would the potential impact would be from a search perspective for these pages. Did you know that you had 27,000 clicks, going to these pages? Did you know that you have people actually converting from these pages? Did you know that, while it's all in, a different language, all the queries that you actually rank for are extremely relevant in that language? I had to translate them, but just to test this, but they were extremely relevant. Do you also know that you have nearly 11,000 backlinks pointing to all these pages? And some of these are from really, really good, credible sources. You would absolutely feel the ripple effect of removing these pages. Let's instead have a conversation of why you think that these pages don't have value, and what we can be able to do to maybe improve on them, or create more tracking tools around this to be able to capitalize on this, or even looking at some of these pages and improving them to create more of that value that you feel like isn't there. And I think that was a really good example of how assumptions can really derail a site.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I agree. It's important to pay attention to monetization, to submitted call to action, and track all results. And Nik, my final question about your experience. I found that I usually get high results with customers who understand SEO. So if they understand, we can cooperate like a cohesive team to have clear goals. But if they don't, I usually tell them, take my course, learn on YouTube, on Google, just get the basic. Nik, can you tell, if you started today from scratch, what would you do today to learn more about modern NCO, considering that we have AI?
Sure. I would be looking at a lot of. I would be asking myself, how does the search engine work? How does it crawl information? How does it start to rank pages? How does information retrieval work? How does it access huge corpuses of information? How does it improve in the quality? What does Google EEAT, experience, expertise, authority, trust, mean? How does this play into its consideration? What is natural language processing? What are the rules that govern it? And what are entities? What am I to a search engine? And I would use ChatGPT to maybe take some of this information and maybe start to work through this and maybe start to help it explain these complex problems simply for me, so I can start to move my head around like how this works. And I think that's a really, really great way to be able to start. I also think that Google Search Central Webmaster Blog is exceptionally useful to be able to, like, literally, this is the playbook of the rules that Google has published to be able to say, like, how and why they want site owners to add information to the web, how they want it to be representative, how we can be able to build things more efficiently for their machines, and what are the kinds of rules that govern the way that it passes and understands information and links. This is a really, really useful way to start to like unpack all of this. I think with the advent of ChatGPT, it is really, really useful as a way to be able to do things a lot faster, but don't take away from the quality of the work. Don't take away from the always keep in mind that ChatGPT is here and is hallucinating answers. So always keep that in mind. So I would actually have maybe find people that are maybe I've got a large bandwidth of friends, because it is not reasonable for me to test everything. To be able to have a community of people to be able to say like, hey, I added all this content. I think I'm doing a great job, and I've helped. I've tried to improve the quality, but it's not getting traction yet. What am I not doing? What is something that I may have missed? And I think just by having like a community of people to really be able to check in with is a really great way just to have like just a little bit of a humanness, a realness, and objectiveness when evaluating like how to be able to scale your efforts so they actually have some traction.
I love it. I love it. You share a checklist. It's not like a few tips, a checklist. I need to listen again this checklist. To note all of these points. And Nik, it's a big pleasure to get on my show again. I love learning from you. You always share valuable insights. You're so kind to share value. Tell our audience the best way how to keep learning from you, how to reach out to you, how to follow you.
Yeah, sure. So I'm on Twitter and I'm on LinkedIn, and you can visit us at Dijon marketing.com.au. So that's Dejan or Dayan, which is actually the correct way to pronounce it. Or you can find me at Nik Ranger SEO on Twitter, and that's probably the best way.
Nice, guys.
Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, guys, you can find the links to Twitter, LinkedIn, and to the website in the description below. Apple, Google, Spotify. Thanks again for your time. Love it, Nik. You are so kind, to share all these valuable insights. I love learning. Okay, guys, love you. See you.
Thank you.